Well, if you look on the maps, um, Southern California, particularly these mountains, it's kind of funny. Um, where I'm at, you know, the west coast of the United States, because of the way that the jet stream flows, and then there's the Pacific Ocean, which is the biggest ocean on Earth. Between us and the next landmass, we had Fukushima, though, and I couldn't help, because see, what's happening is the jet stream goes from west to east. That's the way it just always goes. I've watched the weather channel a day, on anybody watches episodes of their favorite movie every day. As soon as I moved up here, so did that for 20 years and really studied as much as I could. You could to see the actual cloud patterning. So anyway, the standard is that from east to west, the air is blowing. And so, just considering whatever happens in the United States, if it's if it's if it's 60 miles, if it happens 60 miles in between me and the ocean, then I'm fucked as far as like a blow up and then a down breeze fallout, which I dialed in that the Marines out there, military, is doing their amazing fog making machinery and all kinds of whatever to put onto the population on ground, similar to what they do chemtrails. Um, it's just not a possibility to deny out there, because um, when you see pictures of things all of a sudden emerging and then start spewing out clouds in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on these weather maps, um, via the free information highway, it kind of, you should work your brain a little bit, get in there and knead it up a little bit. If you can't scoop it out and eat it, get rid of it. Look at it without a filter. Just let your eyeball register. Have an intuition. Stay up all night. Rock it back and forth. Whatever you need to do to tune in, and drop the hell out of the thinking that that's a marine. They call it the marine layer. The marine layer has come in. It's usually in June, but have you noticed that that's been broken all up? I mean, it was systematic, just fogging, and it's like, well, where is that coming from? I'm not saying that it's exactly that. Like I said, just, can I talk? Can we talk? Oh, you people that are attached to the mind, you don't know how to let go of the mind, and you're not letting yourself change, let alone anybody else, because the mind's got to change in order to be smart, just like water, my friends. Let me get back to what I was talking about. Very serious subject matter. Who the hell wants to think about it? But it's happening. So what I saw on a scientific movie about the mega volcano. There's a mega volcano that, of course, it's always threatening to blow, right? And it damn well could. We don't know, okay? So it's out in Yellowstone. Well, that's when it blows. They did a pre-diagram, like what the pyroclastic flows are going to do. It's a mega volcano. So the pyroclastic flows will be stemming into the Rockies, and it's all going kind of southeast. And what happens on this diagram, I'm looking at it, I know where I am, on the west coast, so this mega volcano blows up and it just covers all of the rest of the United States down to Florida, and it blows. They're saying this thing is going to nearly wipe out all of life on Earth because of the way that it'll turn into a black cloud. But what happens is that this black thing goes all the way around the Earth. It's clearing up, but it's coming. It's coming for me. It's coming. I'm in this little quarry up in the mountains, and then what happens is, like, it covers, but then this little wisp happens, and it's pure, like, blue wisp spiraling, and that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. There's a lot of plows right now making noise. Um, see where I ended up here. You know, my great grandpa is Osage Indian, and I ended up here too, uh, in this safe zone. And what's happening, say, like with what happened with what's happening with the chemical spills that uh, I hope to God that there's, you know, I hope Scooby-Doo comes. We need to call Scooby. Scooby-Doo can do it. And that's just people. And the dog sniffs it out before it happens. Because, well, around here. Because you see it happening all around. And it's like, well, you know, railroad tracks, that is so um, limited. It's just a one-way thing. How hard is it to fucking find out what's going up and down there? And pulling the masks off of people and finding out who they are and blah blah blah, you know. And that's what we need Scooby-Doo for. That's what Scooby did. I don't know if you know Scooby, but that's the cartoon that used to come on, would be on. It would be after all the other cartoons. I don't know. It was just when I came home from school. That's the thing. I would dial in on that cartoon, and then there wasn't anything after. It was time to go out and play, you know. But you know, to watch what would happen is a lot of those episodes were about. I think I told the story already. They were about, but I'll put up another picture anyway. But really, it's happening. You know, none of us is going to live forever. The thing we need to decide is, that's kind of an illusion. What I just said is like a lot of us are, most of us are living forever. We do live forever. Um, there's a danger of coming back here and back here and back here and back here, you guys. Say like if people are are engineering train wrecks to then destroy the fucking Earth's atmosphere and the waters there, those people, you can bet, who are complaining about the fishes just showing up uh, belly up, that they were living on those. They were living on it. They were eating fish, you know, and now their fucking food source is gone, and the water. They can't drink water. See, that's something that my great-grandmother and Grandpa, I'll put the little video up here. You probably already watched it. It's a collage, you know. I have a collage, guys. Um, that's just what my great-grandparents knew who they were. Well, they were part of the Freemasons. They are Freemasons, which are just people, I understand, who highly um, intelligent. They are working machinery. They're inventing and making machinery. And this machinery is making our original structures. And what I understand is they could have been employed by people that were shady, or can't rule out that they were the shady ones. But I'm thinking that more, you know how they talk about the pyramid and it gets shady. The top, it just disappears. You can't ask who's responsible for this operation, and why do you say I'm doing a bad job and I need to complain about this job? It just disappears. So what I'm saying is that racket went on at the level of just human intelligence moving across the land. But no, when you know what fucking was happening, what I understand, you see, see, I come from a family. This is a lot of people, Americans, is fucking history. Okay, so my great great grandpa, my great grandpa's dad, we're getting close to like his parents and grandparents probably came over on the Mayflower, the boats from Europe, and so then it's a very concentrated intelligence, right? And so the Freemasons are emerging out of this. Of course, you know, they're making guns. The stuff that went on by the time my great grandpa was being born, right? I'm just going general here. I don't know why I'm going here. 10 fucking minutes? Good God, babes. What was the original fucking thing I wanted to talk about? The racket that's happening, the war that's going on, continuing against who knows what, where it's coming from, why, what it is. It's a business. It's a fucking racket. It needs to stop. It's not intelligent. I don't care what race you are. That wasn't it. That wasn't the intention of any of this stuff. I don't know. It's disgraceful. And I'm hoping to rinse it all off. Just throw it up in the air. There's something very real about that to me. So, and I've done a lot of work for my ancestry as far as that's concerned. It's just like, well, this person is definitely the ascender for us all, and they love me. I can feel every bit of them surrounding me. Um, I don't know about I've had a lot of fights too. No, just kidding. Um, no, getting back to my coming over on the Mayflower, and at one point, these are builders. These people had land, and then they are now it's calming down that they have stopped killing Indians. That they killed 45 million fucking Indians, if it's not 4,500 million Indians, by way of manipulation of their food. The first thing they had to do, the 45 million buffaloes that they had to kill. There's pictures of that. The only way they can do it, when you're on the Indians' land, they will kill you. You don't know their land, and they know how to fight better than you. They know how to move at night. If they have their food, which it got more and more, they couldn't farm, so they would use the buffalo. And the occupation that came over figured that out, and they started killing the buffalo, and they really did. There's pictures of the mass. They sold the bones and stuff, but they were calling the Indians out through starvation, using their guns. The guns came with that occupation, the ability to do these things. The Indians knew that this was going to happen through the shamanic people there that could envision, and they were probably in contact with the upper atmospheres who would say, there's a possibility of peace. That's what they knew for sure. They're like, yeah, but it won't happen. What's going to happen? Well, your waters are going to be poisoned. Every bit of the waters are going to run red with blood. You won't be able to drink out of any of it. And so then by the time we get to you see my, it's calming down the killings of the Indians by the mid 1800s, where after 40 years, you forget about that history. It's all with programming, reform, shit that you're with those guns. That's like a flash stick. You're just being instantly. I mean, when you see that you can kill anything, that's just a rare thing. It took a lot to kill something back then. You know what I mean? And it's called trauma bond mind control. They don't do it with they do it with weapons here. But in the higher ups, we're talking about people like who's running Hollywood, the mysterious shite that is going on with the mind control thing. They are being to keep them on their with doing their thing in front of the camera and being just mindless, whatever they are, becoming more and more just worshipped by the entire globe. They're not being traumatized by the thundersticks that can just put you anything out, an elephant out. That shocks the hell out of the Indian. The sound of the thundersticks. They call them thundersticks. The only thing they knew that could make that sound was God in the sky. But they're not all that ignorant, and they knew that this was happening. Really, who's fucking ignorant, really, in these territories, and why is it happening? So anyway, thanks for listening to this story. Hey, babes. So then when we get into the what, like I'm saying, towards the mid 1800s, the whole history of the fact of the genocide and the mass displacement of the indigenous people of this land, which is very beautiful everywhere. There's signs of Indians around here, and here it's like, well, it could be in other places too, but here it's known that no, this was squaw ran. The women ran this place. This is what the women were doing as far as the evidence left behind. Let's get back to, and there's a lot more to say about that as far as we don't know the history of why these people end up like that. But so see, this is as much as I could know. I could tell you because my grandmother told me she would tell these stories about it. So it ended up in the 1850s. We have bread now, and there's born the Horn family. I'm the Horn family with an E at the end. Um, this is still a white man who has a white wife, and they own land. They have slaves. They could have an Indian slave, you see, um, working. Well, he invented um, railroad spikes. He ran a railroad spike making factory. That's what just the Freemasons were doing, this major work of just pumping out what had to be. And, there was the slaves just making the railroad to music, by the way, the way they did it, and enslaving people, of course, the black people. But we're getting up into the 1800s, like when my great-grandpa was born. So now, how he was born half Indian was that Horn, with an E at the end, had, the maids were Indian, squaws that were perhaps orphaned because, their families are struggling after complete fucking Adolf Hitler went around, took everything. So there's a maid there, there's servants, and so he and he jumps the fence, from his marriage and has sex with this 16-year-old squaw, pure Indian, Osage Indian woman, and then out pops. Well, she becomes mysteriously pregnant, and this is the whole story of the family in that family. Uh-oh. Well, let's not get rid of her. She's a good servant. Okay, and so nobody knew really who. Really, it was really, it was right under the nose, right? So happens all the time, I guess. Okay, so but yeah, my great grandpa was born from this squaw who, it's like, well, what was her name? Don't know. She got pregnant with something, and now we're gonna have her as a clothes washer and a sweeper and all that stuff, and she's not even human, right? Ugh. So then, there's my grandpa, who's half Osage Indian. That's the great grandpa is the one. He's the one who built this home, and I consider him very much a meditator. The story of his life. I don't want to get into it here, but I can. I don't care. Unlike it, I love that. Anyway, talking about my Freemason family who crossbreeds with Indian, and I don't care. This is who I am. My grandmother. Now, see, he's half Indian, and then what's my grandmother now? Because he has a kid, and so she's what, a quarter or something? And so I have a tinge of this, but really it's very strong. Um, the ancestral thing, we don't really know why. I mean, how, and what we're doing now. Like, say, let's get up and go to work, how we did, and how my grandmother was she had a master's degree in art, and she taught literature, and she assigned, one of her assigned required reading books for the students in those one semester or whatever the year is Aldous Huxley's 1984 and George Orwell's Brave New World. think I got that right as far as who did what. So that's the kind of person she was kind of like, really. You wouldn't believe my grandmother gets out of life and she has a whole different life. But she was 18 years. What I'm trying to say is to contributing, thinking that she did a great job. And she did. Those books she shoved down the throats of the students, right? And this just instead of some bullshit about the history of somebody's side of the story or something. Just visionary things. She was very much just excited about looking into what's going to happen next. When she saw Donald Trump got president, she was in the hospital, but she was like, "Oh my God!" And we were already communicating. She was still growing. She just knew, and she couldn't see. And I probably won't see what you see. My great grandpa and grandmother knew uh, what caused the depression. You see, my grandmother was born during the depression in 1926, and so my great grandpa and grandma had her during that time, and so but. Their conversation, this is just what I'm kind of relaying back to. This is how we do it. We don't watch the Channel 4 news. We listen to each other. And so they knew, guess what, that environmental disaster would be imminent. The way that they would be training the population based on their gold system, their money system, that they would they would have wheat $10 a bag and then take it down to 10 cents a bag. And they're like, oh, no problem. We can just the land more and send that area, that very beautiful area. That's basically an army moving in and destroying it. Farming, arming, farming. Do your own arming. Do your own arming and see how the people were dragged around with that. Money. You don't know what stamping gold and getting your money was all about. It was really about a pass to kill somebody, basically, kind of like. I don't know. I can't put that together, but this kind of what. I don't know why I had to release this, but it's just talking about my ancestry and um, who I'm related to, and I sat and talked with my grandmother. She's my best friend. Some people know that personally about me, and personally about my grandma, who she really was. Talking about Freemason kind of people that had knowledge in their heads that wasn't. There's another version who they don't drop out of it. You see, my great grandpa and grandma, they contributed so much, man, to civilization. They built it. Like I said, he moved on. I mean, to uh, be a machinist and to invent things and help civilization be what it is. As a Freemason, that's what you're doing. On a massive industrial level, you're able to produce out of yourself and building house like this, very, very sturdy, um, alone. By the time he was 70, he started building this home. And he took him 2 years. He didn't have any help. That's literally, I'm telling you. I know because I'm his offspring. It's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I hear you. Do it alone. You have to do a lot of things alone. Because why will they're not interested. They can't. They're not doing it. It's not your life. That's about it. It's like, wow, is it like that? Yeah, that's how it really is. That's why you see a guru over in India sitting there just like, my body is my body and your body is your body. And so what are we going to do about that? I'm going to wear diapers here and sit in the sun. You, fine. Go and fucking find out something else. I don't know. To each their own. Have a cup of tea. Anyway, I like the idea of sitting in the sun. Let's get back to what are we doing here? So yeah, the reseeding. When my great grandpa and grandma, they knew what caused the depression. They see these manipulators of money and of our resources and who they just pinch us off and cause hard fucking times, right? And then what do you got to do? My great grandpa and grandma, they remain buoyant about it, but they know what's going on, and so does my grandma, and they are working hard, is what they're doing. You could say they're working hard for as long as it can matter, doing that system and saying, shh. My grandmother blueprinted and built her own house in Arcadia, it's a major housing tract with beautiful housing. That back then, I mean, it was still that individuals and architects built things, and each and every house is amazingly different. Um, that's in the uptown area of, well, it's near LA, is surrounding there. That's where I was kind of raised. I like telling everybody how that at my high school that I never went to, but it was right down the road, and that's where I went, really. But no. They filmed Back to the Future. Everybody knows that movie, right? That's where they filmed. That movie is at my high school. It's an old, beautiful town that was built in the 1880s. Uh, that town, the main fixture is the theater and the school. But see, there was a massive earthquake I went through, 7.2, and it changed the skyline forever. The old theater got destroyed, and you think about these things that were destroyed easily by the earthquake. It is interesting because some buildings weren't destroyed, but a lot of it was. Brick buildings and stuff will be just toppled. It's like, why don't build like that next to a fault? Anyway, wow, thanks for listening to this. I kind of got off the subject matter of heavy duty about my family and my ancestry. Um, you know, that's kind of roots, Well, really what I wanted to clarify about how that it's continuing, whatever this occupation is, that it seems that every, now, what is it, 80 years? And it's looking like, I hate to say it, but however long it takes for a narcissist to finally start petering out, and they just say, you know what? Will you please go blow up some fucking oil wells over there? Crash your plane, please. Send a goddamn thing out onto the population and end that over there, please. And please, just keep doing it. No, we don't want to do that. Well, then I won't give you $33 trillion and put those satellites. That's a great idea, but tune it to the hell and make them insomnia forever. But we don't want to do that. I won't give you $33,000 trillion. That's unless you do that, please. Maybe. No, that's a Scooby-Doo episode. Thanks for sitting through that. I'm an Aquarius moon, and I don't care what. You know what, you guys? This is the thing. Is that I'm an entertainer. I can get on the guitar, and it's like that's the only time, especially if it's live, and there's like two other people that are holding a backbone. It's like a drummer and a bass, and I'm like, keep doing that. Can you do that for like 3 minutes? Boom, and then I just start putting all this structure around it, and people are like, what the hell is going on in there now? Well, it's an actual musician now, just kind of fluffing things up. Point being, treat it like, it's like I said, unsubscribe, change the channel. It's like a TV set, and don't you know that you have control of that thing? Turn it off. Best thing anybody can do for themselves. But don't try to turn off people who have something more interesting other than the gray rock of the narcissistic society's requirements. You're just supposed to lay flat and be a welcome mat and do your what do they call that fucking thing? It's a new word that I learned. Gesturing. I'm sorry. I'm glad to forget about it because I'm not about that. Getting back to the powers that be. And I think that this is why Jesus was here. Jesus is a strong story. The main thing is, this isn't our world, first of all. Something very peculiar happening here. See, my grandmother, she knows about things like the quickening, and she's talking about our inner structure of being, see, by the time, like, because she goes through the 60s, but she was teaching art throughout that time, I'm pretty sure. Being really busy, built a house, doing the 9 to 5, like being a teacher. And then I think by the 70s, she was driving a taxi in Las Vegas or something. It was like something totally different. She had all these different lives. But my point being is, that would be unheard of for her Catholic upbringing. Was private schools. Really, when you say Catholic, I mean, really, she went to private schooling, and it could be, well, no, she broke out of that. She started, because of her Catholic staunch stuff went on, she was studying something different than that. She's like, well, wait a minute, what really happened, and why? And so she was really interesting, busting out of that paradigm away, unfortunately, towards the end. Say, we had 4 acres here. It was in the 70s. She marries somebody, and gets involved in something. It's a long story, the reason why. She finally told me, and I was like, oh, fuck. But still, either way, her mother couldn't handle it. Her mother didn't like her to the point where there's this 1 acre. It was supposed to be her sister's and hers. She sold the other acre and said, well, you guys just figure it out, whatever. And right? By that time, it was $175 or something, $75,000. We had 4 acres at the time. Bought them for $4,000 in the 40s. $1,000 was $4,000 in the 40s. So anyway, that's when they bought it, and then they just traveled up with this trailer, and finally, after like a decade or so, they started building this cabin. So really taking their time. My great grandpa, having found and moved west. I mean, there's a story about where he was living in Texas. These people. I'm talking about. So here I am ending up in this quarry. He's doing it in such a way, these people are doing it in such a way, thinking, we've got to recede back and find a place that has maybe clean water running through it and fish. There always was fish here. And there was a creek running through our property. Always it was running when I came up in the 70s, it was running in the middle of the property because there was so much snow back then. The controlling of the weather is happening. It's ever perfected, and it's the reason why that those creeks don't run anymore. There's some fishing but it's temporary. It's weird, because they suck the creek out. But there's something very unique about this place. How the water table is very shallow, so it will just start running with very little accumulation. And you can see that it's that's the water table that's percolating, but there is people using it all along. I see people getting 10,000 gallon or 2,000 gallon barrels, which I want one. It would only take a day to fill it with what is coming through there now. It's just thousands and thousands of gallons barreling right now. I can take a picture of it because we've had rain on top of snow. Anyway, the things that are being caused out there is the same as like when the 1920s, when they want to just control. They want power and control of human organism. It's not really money. If it is money, they have money to get these things done for them. And those occupations, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, what is, Scooby-Doo, these politicians are crooked, and whoever begins to have all the money and can control, say, railways and stuff like that, the stuff that's going on, very fishy, that would, very fucked up, because the environmental disaster that it's causing, where now there's that entire eastern blow of the chemical crap that has flowed out of the train wrecks, or whatever they're not mentioning to us, but talking about UFOs instead. That they can no longer drink their water there. or farm or eat the food. That's the truth about much of that area there that is clear to Indiana, clear to the west, or the east coast, from what I understand, because they had some chemicals inside of the train barrels, and that's something that was planned, and they would let that happen as a just a way to do it, a way to do it, a way to, well, now they have to drink bottled water. They just have to. They have to. Not that they weren't already doing that, and that everybody's not already doing that. But see, that's one of the things that my great-grandmother used to say. She says, you know what, one day, water will be the price of gold. They will. The way that they control to control it is to poison it everywhere, and then give you their version of they have taken over what they call primary springs. You see, water actually really comes from underground. From there's a constant source of water. That's how our oceans are there. It's a constant spring, and there's some in the Amazon, Brazil, and what's his name? George Soros or somebody like this has already strong-armed all around that area and has taken over the primary water springs, not just there, but everywhere where they are coming up. Primary water spring sources, which is a forever source of water. The way we get it out of the sky is kind of dirty, and it's possible. It's one way to do it too, to distill it and do all this stuff, and the water table is going up. But there are primary springs on this planet, primary water source springs. They would keep that secret, right? They would just and it's the same with oil. A lot of people don't know the truth about that. Oil is there's primary source springs that are forever running, as long as the earth, whatever it's doing, spinning or whatever's going on in there, it's churning up these minerals on a forever basis, to tell you the truth. Colombia has one of them where it was 10 cents a gallon over there. I remember it was when I was kind of keeping track in the 80s or something, or 90s even. But not if they get taken over, you see. And the warring going on over in Iraq and Iran and stuff is because they have primary oil sources over there. If you make oil the thing to use, they have primary forever oil springs there. They will be the richest people, and they are. They were trying to be. Muammar Gaddafi was building one of the eighth wonders of the world with his money for his people, where he was bringing in a whole bunch of water. It was just a massive river that he was making with his money from the oil. And the United States, of course, when you mention that name, you think he's a terrorist. That he's, oh, and the people, the way that they, it's like, that's none of your business. It's happening here that you people are disgusting too. So, how do you manage your minds without thinking that way? It's none of your business anyway. You should take care of yourselves on your microcosms. And so that's me getting back up into these mountains where my great grandpa and grandma, they knew. They're like, oh shit. Just waking up, just going like this. Oh shit, who do we work for? And uh, uh, who are we giving our money? And where did we give? One of the things my grandma, I'd take her out for a drive, and we would go down and she would see the big puffy shiny cars anymore, and then people are getting fluffier too, and she would say, but where do they get all this money, and where do they come from? And here in Southern California, it's like, okay, but they must come from to me, what's happening, and we could see that how that they pull people out of the jungles and they reform them, and there's like a layer of society, culture, whatever, who is just fresh into it. They're like they are what was it called? The industrial age. They're at the industrial age. They are at um, the industrial age. Just consume, 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 and you can see it's like, all right, now we have the 40s right over there in the form of the jungle people. The jungle people, they got their spinning hubcaps and make sure, and this includes, talking about jungle people, okay, the ones that come from Brazil or even Eskimos. You know, they are being just trained into oh God, this is great. Talk about mind control and, just anesthetizing with, and it's like, and there's a level of people kind of like, me or somebody like that. This is no, this is environmentally damaging. Would you please stop? And I want my spaceship. I'm getting out of here. Oh God, because it's a toxic fucking waste zone. And how do we use this place anyway? I don't know. You know what I mean? That's my aunt is very much an environmentalist, and there's just a whole bunch of environmentalists that come out of the '60s. And who are they? If you look at them, I bet you anything, a lot of them are white. Who would have the nerve to complain about their environment? Just fucking, because most people are just running around going, trying to survive. And then, yeah, no, they are being trained into materialism and being um, so role oriented according to that reformed society, which, yeah, says, you know, go to school, get your education. Whoops, got married, had kids, got married. However that works, but did it. Put the picture on the wall, put the plaque on the wall, and you're really, you look around and everybody's broken and not really happening. It's just like this fucking ghost of a fucking society out there, still hungry for something after all of that. And 41 minutes. Woo! You wish.